Wrestling has been an integral part of John Bennett's life for more than 50 years.
He was involved in wrestling in Connecticut for such a long time. He was a really good coach, several years in high school, several years in college, and then he reffed in Connecticut. He really gave back to his community.
My father's more than just a world champion. He gave his life to the sport of wrestling. It's in his blood.
John's introduction to wrestling began in Hackettstown, New Jersey. Near the Pennsylvania border, it was one of the toughest regions in the country.
My brother, he just started. He's the oldest of three of us, and once my brother John started wrestling, Paul and me started wrestling, and we loved it, and we followed him.
Wrestling was always the bond between me, John, and Jamie. We always drilled. There was always wrestling around the house. I knew Rug Burns before I knew Matt Burns. The most dramatic match was his senior year district finals. He was a returning finalist, but he was also returning against the same guy that beat him the year before, Gary Diamo from Phillipsburg, New Jersey. The finals at Peaburg, which was our district, one of the largest gyms around, and they spotlighted. And it was the first time I've ever remember high schools spotlighting the finals. When he won, dominated the match, he took off his headgear. You know what? He threw it up so high, I still think it's on the rafters in that gym.
In college, John wrestled for legendary coach John Allen at Seton Hall University for 2 seasons before his career was cut short due to injuries. Shortly after moving to Connecticut, while student teaching, John volunteered at Windham High School. In his 1 season with the team, Windham had its first state open champion wrestler. The next season, at the age of 23, John became head coach at St. Bernard in Uncasville.
I had the pleasure of wrestling under John my junior year at St. Bernard's High School. He took the program that had been started by Coach Eaton and took us all the way to a runner-up position in the state open. It was quite a feat that the school has yet to replicate. I'm very happy to be a part of a magical year.
John went back to Windham as a volunteer and was a consistent presence in the wrestling room as new coach Brian Crudden was quietly building a dynasty.
Thank God for volunteerism in America. John was there, volunteered a lot of his time. I came in a kind of a funny situation mid-season. Here's John. He's already been there. I don't feel he was utilized, with his knowledge of the sport, prior to when I got there. Hey, John Bennett made me look good.
As the Windham High program grew in strength in the mid-1980s, it still lacked a youth program. John gathered a few of the adults in the area with wrestling backgrounds and became one of the founders of the Windham Wrestling Club.
John, I think, really believed in getting young people involved in the sport. What John did was he waited for people to catch on, and he bumped into Shahzad Ahmadi and then a fellow named Tom Spudik, and then me in relatively short order. But if John hadn't kept the light shining, the 4 of us probably would not have come together as a team of 4 people to create the Windham Wrestling Club, which has become Silverbacks. It wasn't a club about let's find some talented kids around and develop that talent. It was like, hey, let's get a bunch of kids on the mat.
John was more than a coach and teacher. He was tournament director for a pair of state wrestling tournaments and was a high school official for 13 years, including numerous class and state open championships.
When we came to host the first class championship at Windham High School, in 1985, I knew who the tournament director was going to be. It was going to be John Bennett. And with that, we won our second state championship, and he ran a tremendous tournament.
As far as your officiating ability is concerned, you were always consistent. You certainly had a solid background and knowledge of the sport, as well as supreme confidence while on the mat. As far as your coaching ability and your relationship with officials, I always saw total respect by coaches and officials towards you while you were a coach or an official.
In his early 40s, John had the desire to compete again, and not just at the regional level. Training every day, he won the AAU Masters national title and competed at the Worlds with partners Shahzad Ahmadi and Tom Spudik. Wrestling on mats alongside the USA senior team, John won the Veterans World Championship freestyle gold medal at 68 kilograms in Toronto in 1993.
John Bennett had a really good shot even before John Smith started going low shot. And his shots were deadly. If he got your leg, you had no choice but turning around and giving him that takedown.
In the late 1990s, Coach Jim Day of Berlin asked John, who recently moved to that town, to join his staff. Together, they led the Redcoats to 4 state titles and developed Class, Open, and New England champions. In 2001, John was named the CIAC Assistant Coach of the Year.
Coach Bennett worked with my father very closely. I would say in many ways, and my father used to say it too, they were basically co-coaches. So Coach Bennett's ability to take a simple move or technique and then really show you the wide range of possibilities that you could execute from that was something my father really respected and he learned a lot from.
Over the next 12 years, John competed in both freestyle and Greco-Roman and won 3 U.S. Veterans Championships and was an 11-time medalist at the Veterans National and World Championships.
The fact that we had an example of someone who was an adult who was still competing in wrestling, the thing we were doing in high school, and the fact that he was still winning, going to the nationals, the worlds, and coming back and telling us his stories of how much work he's put in, it really showed us that even though we might not be at his level, at one time he was a high school wrestler, so if we wanted to continue this process, look where it could get us.
Following Berlin, John was assistant coach at Trinity College for 5 seasons. At the same time, he started the In Your Zone Wrestling Club in a gym he constructed in his backyard.
You saw kids who were JV their freshman year, came to In Your Zone, then they were varsity their sophomore year, then they placed in the States their 3rd year, then they went to the Open their senior year, so the improvement was there through the In Your Zone club.
John went back to the high school level and was assistant and head coach at Newington High School for 5 seasons. 2 of his wrestlers later became Division III All-Americans.
So John's, more than any of us, been around the state and really had an impact on wrestling, basically from central Connecticut to the Rhode Island border.
My father, Jim Day, he respected Coach Bennett a lot. He would always say he's one of the good guys in the sport. He's one of the guys in this sport who's looking for the sport to grow as a whole.
His whole life was dedicated to the scholastic wrestler. It was always about being productive citizens. It wasn't just about wrestling. It was to mold them as young men.
Whether it's helping youth programs or competing himself in a master's levels tournament, Coach Bennett was about how can we get this sport to become more popular, more widely known.
Congratulations, Dad. You've given your life to the sport of wrestling. You've meant so much to so many people. You've taught people. You gave your time. You built a gymnasium in your backyard. You made a huge impact on so many communities to bring your knowledge of wrestling, the love of competing, and getting the best out of everyone. But it's a love of the sport that I have because of you. You've loved it for 50 years of your life, and you're just as passionate now as you were probably in Hackettstown when you were 14 or 15 and just starting out. So thank you for everyone, for all you've done for wrestling in New Jersey, and especially here in Connecticut. This induction is well deserved, and congratulations. We're all so proud of you.